Okay, so what's up, YouTube? Okay, so I am Michael Stevenson. I am a writer, and this is my video of the Avengers Endgame final theories. We only got like a day before it releases, so these are the final theories that you'll probably ever need or ever see for this movie. And then, of course, you can come back to the video and tell me how wrong I was, if I was wrong at all. Okay, so as I say, I am a writer. Michael Stevenson is my name. Uh, there are a few disclaimers that I need to make about this video. First off, it is Wednesday, April 24th, I think it is today. 24th, I think, because the movie officially releases on the 26th. So it's April 24th, Wednesday. I am in America, which means that I'm not in any of the foreign countries where the movie releases like 1 or 2 days earlier than it does here in America. Eastern time zone, so that means that I haven't, like I haven't seen anything that's come out like on the East Coast that didn't come out on the West Coast or anything like that. So no time zone issues. I have not seen nor looked at nor read anything about the major plot leak that happened, I think, just a week ago. I haven't done any of that. And any and all of the contacts that I have at the major studios at Disney, I have not spoken to them in a while. I wanted to keep myself as spoiler free as possible. So with all of that being said, and also the only things that I've even looked at concerning Avengers Endgame in the last, I want to say 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks, are the John Campea show on YouTube. Shout out to John Campea, to all the people on his show, and his wife Ann, as well as another channel, I believe, called Everything Awesome. And so he goes, the person who runs Everything Awesome has gone through many different theories of what he thinks might happen and comparing that to what he knows happens in the comic books, at least, and how those things may differ. So those are the only two things that I've read or seen concerning Avengers Endgame. And of course, I've also seen some of the pics from the world premiere, just last night, where Brie Larson and Scarlett Johansson were wearing the ring jewelry that they had specially made, things of that nature. But I didn't watch the live stream of the world premiere even. Okay, so with that said, let me also get out another disclaimer. Again, as I said, I am a writer. I write pretty much in all genres and in all mediums. But for now, I would love it if you guys would go and check out some of my books on Amazon. There is a link to my Amazon page in the description below. And I think that if you guys really love like the comic booky type stuff, sci-fi stuff, superheroes, things of that nature, really check out my serial. It's a serial. It's only 10 episodes long, but it's a written serial. Each episode is about 60 pages, called or entitled Extraordinary. And so I would really love it if you guys check that out. Season 1 episodes 1 through 10. They are out now on Amazon as an ebook. So I would love it if you guys check that out. It's very, very low cost. I think like each episode is less than $1, maybe $1.99. So less than even most comic books are per issue. So anyways, with that being said, I also have a horror novel coming out called Bland, capital B, capital L, capital A, and then ND. If you enjoy the horror of like Jordan Peele, I think that you would really enjoy my novel. It's a horror novel. It does address some social issues in it, and it's fairly short. I think it's like maybe 80,000 or a little over 80,000 words. But that's also coming out May 22nd. Again, that's May 22nd on Amazon. It's going to be ebook on Amazon. So I would love it if you guys check that out as well. It's going to be less than like $6. So yeah. Okay, so with all those disclaimers out of the way, and I'll mention the books again. I'll include them in the description below. I am going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen in Avengers Endgame. As we know, this is like the biggest movie, the most anticipated movie potentially of our lifetimes, maybe outside of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I was never really a big Star Wars fan, but I've been a fan of the MCU pretty much since its inception. So I think that this is one of the most anticipated films of my life. I really anticipated Jurassic World too, but it was kind of just so-so for me. But I digress. So anyways, Avengers Endgame. I'm going to try to tackle it from two different perspectives here. First off, let me start by saying some of just the random stuff. Get some of the random stuff out of the way of like what I think could happen. Some of the things that I think might happen in there that are not their theories, but they are not like those overarching theories about plot and things like that. It's just like, you know, characters and what they might do and the roles that they might play. So for starters, as I said, I haven't watched anything concerning the movie. I haven't even watched the latest John Campea show. I'm keeping the last John Campea thing that I watched was I think Friday or Thursday. So with that being said, I think that one of the things I anticipate happening in Avengers Endgame is that Gamora's sister, Nebula, Gamora's sister, Nebula, will potentially play a larger role than most people think that she will. I know that in the comics, and again, I haven't read the Infinity comics, so I was not aware of this story, but I know that in the comics, at some point, Nebula gets the gauntlet and wears it herself. I don't think that's going to happen per se, because she becomes a villain and then Thanos has to team up with the Avengers to stop her. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that she's going to play a much larger role than most people think or expect her to play. I also don't think that the film will throw any sort of MacGuffin or red herring in there. Essentially a Deus Ex Machina, where we have some character that we've never known, or some character that is super almost irrelevant at this point, like Jane Russell from the Thor series. Some character which is just not even on our radar somehow come in and make all the world a difference. Whether they stop Thanos or whether they somehow get to wear the gauntlet themselves, I don't see that occurring. So I think that the characters that we have, the cast of characters that we have, is enough already. Now there may still be one or two new characters that pop up, but I still don't think that they will have such a grand involvement as to really affect the overall outcome of what's going to happen. Then on top of that, I don't think that we are... I do think there's going to be time travel in it, but I don't think that it's going to be time travel in the way that everyone or most people are expecting. And I'll expand on this theory a little later when I get to the themes part, but I don't think that it's going to be the way in which most people are expecting. I do also think that we are going to see Thanos die. However, I don't think that we're going to see a permanent death for Thanos. So in other words, I think that Thanos, it's possible that he dies, in my opinion, it's possible that he dies early in the movie. and somehow the heroes see that that's not enough, and so at the end of the movie he's still living. And I'll explain my theory as to why I think that. Let's see what else that I want to get out of the way. I also don't think as big as Captain Marvel was, I don't see her playing the ultimate game changer role in the film. I think what's going to happen is that she's going to be she's definitely obviously going to be part of the team, and she is going to make a difference, but not nearly as big of a difference as well, I kind of don't want to say this, but I have to say it. I don't think she's going to be as big of a difference as some people are expecting, nor as what Kevin Feige has essentially referenced in some of the things that he's in some of the interviews that he's been in. You know, where he says that she is essentially the strongest MCU character. She may be the strongest, but I don't think that her strength, her physical strength, is really going to be what ultimately they need in this film. And again, I'll explain that once I get to the themes. And then finally, I'm not sure how do I phrase this. I'm not sure that we haven't seen at least one scene from the finale of the entire film already. And I say that, of course, with a little grain of salt, but my theory is, just move the camera a little bit. My theory is that, you know, that one scene in that, this is going back now. This is going back to Avengers Infinity War, the advertising for that film. You all know the one scene in the trailer, like the ultimate trailer that everybody was talking about, where we get this hero shot of essentially everybody. It had Captain America, it had the Hulk, Black Widow, Black Panther, War Machine, Bucky. Like everybody is flying. Oh, Falcon. Everybody is flying or just running toward the camera, and essentially there's like it's basically like a war type attack type shot. I kind of feel like that is going to be a finale shot. I honestly do. Either and you know, people got a little pissed because we sat through that whole movie, and you know, you're sitting through the movie and you're kind of waiting for that one particular shot because you saw it in the trailers and it was so awesome in the trailers, and you thought, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. And then we sat through all of Infinity War and that shot never occurred. From my understanding, and again, you know, I've had experiences with filmmaking and things of that, and how they budget a film and things of that nature. Listen, Marvel is not in the business of like making art, okay? Their films are not supposed to be art pieces. They're supposed to be entertainment pieces. And I do believe that there's a difference. So with that being said, their films are just always there in order to make money. Now, if they make some point with it, which is what I think art does, or at least it tries to do, it tries to make a point. If they make some point with what they've created, then that's great for them, but that is not their main thrust. Their thrust is to make money and to be profitable. So with that said, just that one shot from the trailer from the Infinity War trailer costs, essentially, it could have cost a great deal of money, especially considering all of the special effects that go in the shot. especially considering all the actors that were in the shot. It could potentially have cost easily 100,000, probably more when you're considering, all the effects and whatnot that go into it. So that 100,000 is a little on the low side, but I say that because some people have said or insinuated that, listen, this was just because they wanted to have this cool shot in the trailer, so they decided to shoot this scene. I don't think so. I don't think so. Even if Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers came out and said that, I still don't think, I think that was essentially a lie, similar to the lie that they told that, the movie was not going to be called Endgame. Which, again, if you look on my Twitter feed, I still think, in my opinion, that Avengers Afterlife would have been a much better title. If you think about the layers that are within just the word afterlife and how that could have applied to the film overall, especially seeing as how, even if main characters don't die, their contracts are expiring. So this would be after their life in the MCU. I digress. But I had heard that Afterlife was going to be the title. This was before Infinity War even came out. So I heard it from some people in Disney. But like I said, I digress. Anyways, back to that specific hero shot. The reason why I believe that shot might end up in Endgame, near to the end, is because specifically of the Hulk being included in that shot. In my opinion, when you look at the way that the film unfolds, that shot specifically would have had to be one of the first things that they filmed throughout the entirety of filming Infinity War, because of the fact that almost from day one, it seemed like they had a good grasp on the story that they wanted to tell. And so you get when you're on a film set, you do get a lot of rewrites, but the through line for Bruce Banner's character was that the Hulk was not willing to come out after that first fight with Thanos. So essentially, they would have had to refilm a lot of his different scenes throughout the movie. And I know some of them are, well, he's just human and, he's just talking to people, like when they're in the Avengers compound and they're all just sort of talking about Vision and about pulling that stone out of his head and things like that. But I still think that you might have to reshoot some of those shots just to have this through line of, well, why is the Hulk not there? Why is he not around? Because having the Hulk in the movie, I think, fundamentally changes the entirety of the film. At least, well, yeah, it fundamentally changes at least the climax of the film. Once that Wakanda battle begins, it fundamentally changes that, and even changes the last encounter with Thanos. So I feel like that decision to have the Hulk in that shot specifically was made when Disney and Marvel had this idea in their minds that they were going to shoot both Infinity War and Endgame as one production, similar to how Disney did with the Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3. I don't feel like Disney has quite mastered shooting like 2 films or 3 films together, 2 sequels together, quite like maybe Warner Brothers or what's the company behind the Lord of the Rings? It was Paramount. I think it was Paramount. Similar to how Warner Brothers or Paramount have essentially they've done it multiple times, and they seem to have a much better grasp on how to do that. But I think with this production, the shooting schedule, even for Infinity War, ran long, and then we get uh, not a whole lot of news, but a few rumors from Endgame that said, well, they had to go back in and they had to do these massive reshoots. I think that was just because they couldn't find or figure out a way to film both films together at the same point. So, like I said, it all boils down to, I think that scene in the Infinity War trailer is going to be in Endgame. Now, finally, let me break down my theories. And I'm already running long, so I'm going to try to rush through this. So, my theory is it comes from a writer's perspective. And I say this because I think that if you look at things from a writer's perspective, you might have a better understanding of where the story might go and why it would go that way. And it might be more satisfying to you if you understand the themes in it. So if you look at the MCU films, specifically the ones directed by the Russo brothers and written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. And please, guys, just as a side note, tangential note, please always remember that while you're thanking the Russo brothers and how great of a job they did, please remember to thank the writers too. Okay, like, we writers, we do a super difficult job and we don't get much thanks for it, even if the movie is successful. So just remember that, all the words that most of the words that you're seeing up on screen and most of the story and the story arcs, writers had to work on that really, really hard in conjunction with the directors in order to make it look and sound and feel intense and to draw out those emotional cues that you so love. So anyways, the movies that they've all worked on essentially all have the same sort of thematic breakdown. So beginning with Captain America Winter Soldier, the breakdown goes like this. There is essentially some sort of organization, some sort of group. One or two or a few of our heroes start to disagree with what the group is doing. And so then they try to fix the group from within, only to realize that they can't fix the group from within. And so at the end of the film, the group or organization is broken up. So what happens is, throughout essentially each Russo brothers and Marcus McFeely film, is that you start with one unit, and that by the time that the movie ends, the one unit is broken up at least into two units, potentially multiple units. So we see that first in Winter Soldier, where you have Shield and Captain America. Captain America and Shield are essentially one unit. Okay, so he's part of Avengers. Avengers part of Shield. Like it's a Shield initiative. They're one unit. And as we go through that movie, what we see is that obviously Captain America figures out that there's this whole Captain America and Black Widow. Excuse me. I gotta remember to include her. They figure out that there's something shady going on in the executive level of Shield. And as we go on, we realize that Hydra has infiltrated Shield. And so what happens? Instead of trying to fix Shield from the inside, they have to break it apart. And so by the time that we start that film, they're all together. But by the time we end that film, Captain America is on his own. Black Widow is, she's sort of in Captain America camp, but she's on her own too. Falcon is over here with Captain America. Nick Fury, he's sort of in the Captain America camp, but he's also on his own and on the run, mind you. And the government is trying to essentially disavow Shield and break it up completely because there's too many Hydra people. And obviously, you know, that had effects on Marvel's Agents of Shield, and it changed that whole show for the better. But you know, some people still don't like it. I enjoy it, but that's neither here nor there. So then we get to Captain America Civil War. And in Captain America Civil War, what we see is that the Avengers start essentially as one. So we have all the Avengers together, and they are I think that at the beginning they're fairly good until, you know, Wanda, she does the thing where she doesn't blow it up herself, but she like tries to encapsulate Crossbones in some sort of witchy magic, the witchy magic that she does, and he blows up and explodes anyway, and a couple of people die. Sorry, my camera just shifted, my laptop shifted again, and a couple of people die. And so from there on, we see that there's this contingency within the Avengers that believe in the Sokovia Accords, because they saw what they did in Sokovia, and it's like, oh my God, you know, tons of people died. We made enemies of ourselves and enemies of these own innocent people. What are we doing? We need government oversight. And there's the contingency that believes that no, we shouldn't have government oversight, which of course leads to the fight. And so once again, even though there is an outside force that puts pressure on them, we start the film where they're essentially all together in mind. You know, like they're not physically all together. Like you guys get that. But in mind, in one mental capacity, they're all together. But slowly throughout the film, they pull apart, pull apart, pull apart. Similar to like a single-celled organism splitting apart, and just, you know, they are together, but they pull apart, pull apart, pull apart until at the end, once again, they're separated. They tried to fix it, okay, and they tried to fix it from the inside by coming to some terms and seeing that they can negotiate, but nope, ultimately their fix broke them up even further, so that it then pushed Tony and oh my God, what's his name? Captain America. I can't even think of his name right now. Steve. I wanted to call him Scott so bad. I was thinking of Scott Pilgrim. I have no idea why. It pushed Tony and Steve to even farther apart, and it made people choose sides. So then we finally get to Infinity War. And in Infinity War, it's actually Tony's idea that what we need to do is that we need to take the fight directly to Thanos. And so they get there, and of course, as they get there, you know, he and Doctor Strange, they get in a couple of arguments here and there, yada, yada, yada. Once they get onto the planet, Strange looks at 14,605,000 possibilities, and obviously they only win in one. And so then what they do is that with the team, the ragtag team that they find on Titan, Tony gets together with them, and he tries to work out a plan. His plan sucks, so then Star-Lord comes in and tries to work on his own plan. And at first it works. Obviously they get Thanos, they trap him for a little while. Mantis does her little mind thing where she puts him to sleep, and everything is going okay. But they tried to fix the problem by taking the glove off of Thanos while Star-Lord is trying to interrogate Thanos for essentially no reason. And what happens is that they're trying to fix the problem simply by getting Star-Lord to not talk and do this stupid thing, but of course that goes awry. Meanwhile, on Earth, um, Banner gets together with Captain America and the rest of them, Black Panther, Bucky. He gets together with all those people and he says, listen, Thanos is coming, so we need to be ready. And so what they're trying to do is that they're trying to make a fix of the problem before the problem gets worse. And that fix, they think, is removing the stone from Vision's head. But of course, both of these plans go awry, where they're trying to fix the thing from the inside. And what happens is that as they try to fix the thing from the inside, they actually make it even worse because of the fact that, one, the glove doesn't come off of Thanos' hand on Titan, so Strange just gives the gem over to Thanos. And two, once Thanos gets to Earth, he just reverses time and yanks the stone out of Vision's head. So those and of course we end the movie where essentially mentally they were all together. Is that the mental through line for the entire film is stop Thanos. We just have to stop Thanos. But then at the end of the film, they're separated, not just mentally, but they're also separated physically due to the snap. So thematically, it's the same theme throughout all the movies. They try to fix the problem internally before it becomes a bigger problem. They realize that it already is too big of a problem, too much of an insurmountable problem to fix, and they end up separating in the end. Those are that's one of the things. It's one of the overarching tropes of the Russo directed films. So, what then do I think will happen in Endgame based on these themes in all three of the Russo directed movies? I think that the answer does lie in Doctor Strange's his vision of like his actions toward Thanos, but not in the way that people think. People are focusing in on the 14 million yada 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 number, and saying, oh well, he saw one and that's the whole reason why he gave up the stone, because he needed to save Tony's life. I don't think thematically, there are many themes within the Infinity War film, but I think the theme that I've identified is one of the main themes, and I think that plays over some of the other things, that Tony is important specifically for this reason. I think the reason why Tony is actually important is because he is the analyst of the team. Okay, for starters, some people believe that Steve Rogers, Captain America, is the heart of the team. I never thought that he was the heart of the team. I think that Tony is the heart of the team, but I think Steve Rogers is the moral compass of the team. And so I think that as the heart of the team, Tony takes certain things, quote unquote, to heart because of the fact that he internalizes a lot of what happens in his life. And I think that what he's going to do is that he's going to internalize and analyze, because you know how, like, when you feel like you're thinking with your heart, like for instance when you fall in love, or like something on that level, when you make a huge big decision, you overanalyze something. Oftentimes you will overanalyze what is going on, right? Like if the first time you fall in love or even start liking somebody, puppy love, you analyze yourself first to see, oh well, why do I like them, and this, that, and the other. I think what he's going to do is that he's going to analyze Strange's um, actions more than his words. And what he's going to realize is that, and this is what I believe is going to happen in Endgame, and I'll explain it. What he's going to realize from Strange's actions is that the problem that they've always had, that both he has had in his own personal movies, whether it be in Iron Man 3 or Iron Man 2 or Avengers Age of Ultron, or even in Spider-Man Homecoming, what he's going to realize is that the Avengers have always been trying to fix the problem. And what he needs to do now is that they, instead of fixing the problem, they need to lean into the problem. And that is what Doctor Strange did. Instead of trying to keep the stone away from Thanos, he leaned in and said, listen, I'm going to give you the stone on purpose. And this is why I think that at the end of Endgame, this is why I think that Tony at some point will realize that in order for them to beat Thanos, what is the greatest thing that you can do to a man, and I say man as in mankind, what's the greatest thing that you can do to man in order to defeat him? Give him exactly what he wants. And so this is my theory. My theory is that, going through the whole movie, my theory is that, and again, I'm running long here, so I'm going to try and rush through it. My theory is that Tony and Nebula will arrive back on Earth. And similar to what I believe a Redditor said like almost a month ago, I think that Tony and Nebula are going to arrive back on Earth, and Tony is going to be a little too defeated to go chase Thanos again. What I think he's going to do is that instead of going himself, he's going to send a similar to in Iron Man 3, where like he didn't have to be in the suits. I think he's going to send like a proxy suit with the rest of the team. Because what I think is going to happen is that once he gets back and Thanos uses the glove again, the team, specifically because of Captain Marvel and Thor now being there, they're going to all say, well, let's go get this fool. And so they're going to actually go out and they're going to try to find Thanos and get him immediately. And this is why I think that Thanos has actually a good chance of dying early in the film. Because I feel like at this point, even though he feels he can use the stones again, and I mean, he can use the stones again, I feel like in some sense, he's not going to be up for the kind of fight that they're going to bring to him. Especially with now you're going to have at least two people who are stone power, or I digress. You're going to have one person who's stone powered in Captain Marvel, and you're going to have Thor again with his axe. And that I think this time, to end his story arc from Infinity War, I think he is going to aim for the head. And I think that Thor will be the one who kills Thanos. But what's going to happen, in my opinion again, is that they are going to realize that as soon as they kill Thanos, the Soul Stone is going to disappear. So even though their idea is to just, reverse the snap with their own snap, they're going to realize that they can't do it. And that the stones themselves might do a similar thing to, the Dragon Balls, if you guys watch that show, and just disperse throughout the universe again. So that, I think, are some of the scenes that we then see where Captain America, he's like sitting in a not a focus group, but a grief group, grief therapy sort of thing, because what's going to happen is that they're going to come back to Earth and they're going to realize that even though they have defeated Thanos, there's no way to bring all those people back, because of the fact that they also realize that they are in a heck of a doozy with the Soul Stone. And I think that Thanos might even explain to them before he is defeated that Nebula was right, and that to get the Soul Stone, that you guys will never be able to get this back, and so you guys will never be able to do the snap, is what I'm saying. Never be able to reverse the snap. Those would be his words, because you'll never be able to get the Soul Stone. And if you look at it, there is really no way for them to get the Soul Stone right now, because the Soul Stone is not something that can be a self-sacrifice. So Captain America really legit has nobody who he can sacrifice, nor can he make a self-sacrifice that would ultimately give him the stone. I mean, literally almost everybody that he's had has been decimated. Bucky and Falcon have both been dusted. Peggy is dead, long dead. There's nobody else that's out there. And the same essentially goes for Thor. I could make another video and talk about the thematics between them, because essentially thematically they are brothers. They've had basically the same exact stuff happen to them, or similar things happen to them in all of their movies. But I digress. I think it might be a little too late for that now. I might make it maybe in the future after I see the movie, but after I see Endgame. But anyways, I think that they're going to come back to the world, and that's what they're going to realize. And I think that the word that Thanos has been defeated will get out, and people will start saying, okay, well, you know, where are all the people? Like, why haven't they come back? And that's what is going to be the depressing part of the film, is that they realize that they can't do this. Meanwhile, Tony, having stayed on Earth, he's going to be thinking about that strange thing again. And what I think he's going to do is that he's going to use his barf technology to go back to Titan and to relive that thing again and again, and to analyze what Strange did and what Star-Lord did, and figure out if he can do it differently. Because what I think ultimately is going to happen is that they are going to Ant-Man is going to show up in those years of mourning, and he's going to say, listen, you know, I can travel through time now, you guys can go with me, yada yada yada. And I think Stark is going to realize that this is how they can finally get the stones. So what they're going to do is that they're going to travel back through time. And this is what I think that a lot of fans might be pleased with. It'll be like a literal replaying of nostalgia. Because what I think they're going to do is they're going to go back to literally every single MCU movie, or at least to the movies that mattered the absolute most to the characters that are still remaining, minus the Captain Marvel movie, because I just don't think they're going to go back to that, because, you know, it just came out, it's so recent, so I don't feel they are going to feel the need to go back to that. But every other movie, every Thor movie, and probably not the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, maybe one, but not like, you know, because only Nebula and Rocket Raccoon are going to be there. But every other movie, they're probably going to go back to, even Doctor Strange movie, and they are going to talk to those characters and try to get the stones there. And then finally, Tony is going to realize something. And I think what he's going to realize is that even if they go back and get the stones from those periods of time, he still has a problem with the Soul Stone. There's still a problem there. So they're going to try to go and get the Soul Stone, but it's not going to work. No matter what sacrifice Tony makes, it's not going to work. So then what I think is going to happen is that Tony is going to realize something. He's going to realize something about his barf technology, and he's going to realize something about Strange's actions. And again, it's like I said, the easiest way to defeat someone is to give them exactly what they want. Because then it changes their mind and it puts them in this crazy altered state to where now they kind of don't know what to do. You know, it's like after you've been working for something for so long and you finally get it, and it's like, it's such a great feeling for a time. And then after that, you're like, okay, well, what's the next thing that I need to do? I think that they are going to go back to the Battle of New York, like everybody is saying, but that they're not going back there for the reasons that most people think. As as most fans have pointed out, the Battle of New York, in retrospect, we now know had at least 2 Infinity Stones there. It had the Space Stone, but it also had the Mind Stone. And I think that's going to be a huge and important part. What I think is going to happen is that, and again, this is my theory, is that Tony is going to go back specifically to the Battle of New York, not to grab the stones from there so that Thanos can't get him, but specifically to go and grab Loki's scepter so that he can study the Mind Stone. And the reason why he's going to study the Mind Stone is because I think that he ultimately is going to somehow infuse the powers of the Mind Stone into his own barf technology. And so that then he's going to, instead of changing the past, because what I think is that, you know, first they are going to go back in time and they're going to try to change the past a lot. And so we're going to see a lot of replays, which might get a little bit boring for the first 2 hours. A lot of replays of scenes that famous scenes that we've already seen in the MCU. But then he's going to realize that you can't do that. And even through 14 million times that he's tried it, none of that works. So he's going to go back, he's going to study the Mind Stone, and he's going to somehow infuse that power with his barf technology, and then he's going to let the rest of history play out in the exact same way that it has played out, except for, and that includes the murder of Gamora, you know, for Thanos to get the Soul Stone, as well as the snapping of Loki's neck. And again, some people say that he didn't turn blue, so he's probably not dead still. I can go with that theory. It's not that big of a thing to me, though. You know, Loki is neither here nor there. That includes those things, as well as the murder of Heimdall. You know, which, again, as a side note, I just couldn't believe that Disney literally, the first person that they killed in Infinity War was the black guy. Like, yeah, it was all these other dead bodies laying around, but the first kill, on-screen kill that we got was the black guy. Sorry, I just had to say it. Like, no, I haven't seen any other videos that talk about that. Anyway, Tony is going to realize that in order to defeat Thanos, you need to give him exactly what he wants. And so that is then when we're going to see that end scene. Instead of, Tony is still most likely going to go to Titan along with Doctor Strange, just so they can give him the Time Stone. But somehow Tony is going to get back, Tony and the rest of them, before Thanos does the snap, they're all going to somehow get back to Earth. Before Thanos collects the final stone. And what's going to happen then is that they are going to, in my opinion, they are going to allow him to collect the final stone out of Vision's head, only for them to then replay the Quill's plan, because Tony knows, or at least he saw, that the plan literally almost worked with Mantis. So Mantis is going to drop on Thanos' head again, and this time, instead of pulling the gauntlet off of him, what I believe is going to happen is that Tony is going to use some sort of Mind Stone altered barf technology to implant or put it on Thanos' head, and then have it play out, have some sort of dream sequence play out. So we get everybody running at Thanos, about to defeat him, and he, in his mind, either thinks that he does the snap, or and this is a big one, because I think that no one has posed this theory. I think that if what I say is accurate, that he's ultimately defeated by barf technology, then what'll happen is that instead of sending Thanos to this mentally altered state where he thinks that he has done the snap, instead what I think is that Tony would send Thanos all the way back to his time on Titan, so that Thanos is either listened to on Titan, like it fulfills his dream of having been listened to on Titan, and all of the citizens saying like, yeah, we do need to kill just half of the population, or Thanos is sent to Titan, and again, this is all in his mind, and somehow he comes to realize that, listen, there really was no problem with this overpopulation. That somehow those people that he said we need to kill all the people, or we need to kill half the people, somehow the government listens to him, but instead of taking extreme measures, everyone reduces their population, their population output, let's call it, because I can't think of the word right now. But they reduce it, and so then Titan is left as a paradise. And remember, Tony has heard about how Titan was a paradise, and I think he's seen it too, because like obviously he was there hiding in the wings when Thanos did the reality thing and showed them what Titan was. So I don't know if that only applied to Strange or if it applied to everybody in the region. I assume it applied to everyone because of what he did in Nowhere. So Tony saw it, and he saw how beautiful Titan was. I think that he mentally sends Thanos back to Titan. So then that would mean that they could, all of them could essentially take the stones off of Thanos's gauntlet, because he wouldn't know that he had it on. They could take the stones off of his gauntlet, leaving one stone with him, which oddly enough is what they do in the comic books. So I've been told, on YouTube, is that Thanos ultimately becomes a member of the Infinity Watch, and so he is left with the privilege and of keeping watch over an Infinity Stone, making sure that it doesn't get into the wrong hands again. I think that ultimately they leave the Mind Stone with Thanos so that it can continue to work on that barf technology on his head, and so that ultimately he thinks that he has accomplished his mission, or that he never needed to accomplish that mission in the first place, and that's how it ends. Now, as for who dies, again, I think Gamora is left dead, and I think that Guardians of the Galaxy, the 3 is at Volume 3, actually is going to be essentially a remake of Star Trek's The Search for Spock. Is that they're going to try to they're going to spend most or at least half the movie trying to figure out how to bring her back from the soul world. Uh, who dies? That's a good question. I still feel like I still feel like Tony has to be the one who ultimately dies. Simply because if you look at his story arc compared to the other major hero story arc, and that being, I guess you can. I'm trying not to include too many new major characters like Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange and Black Panther or even Spider-Man. But if you look at just, if you look at just Tony, Thor, and Captain America, and you can throw in Hawkeye, and you can even throw in Black Widow. Out of all of them, all the original Avengers, and even what's his name, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. Literally, out of all of them, Tony is the only one who has not had a big sacrifice in his life. Did anybody else realize that? At this point, he's the only one who has not made or had some big sacrifice in his life. Even when you consider Hawkeye, it seems obvious that Hawkeye's family either died in a snap or was killed afterwards once the world started to sink into chaos and darkness. But yeah, if you look at the original Avengers, Thor has almost nobody. Captain America has almost nobody. We know that Black Widow has she sort of has she really only has the team, and even the Hulk had sort of just zoomed off into space and left her there. And the Hulk himself really doesn't have anybody either. Except for Black Widow. So everybody else doesn't have anybody left. They've all made sacrifices, or the people around them, have died. Tony still has Pepper. He still has a potential child on the way. He still has Happy. He still has a good, and he still has a company. By the way, he still has a company. Bruce Banner doesn't even have a company or anything. So, and not to mention, he still has a country. Tony has everything. Captain America doesn't even have a country anymore. He stopped calling himself Captain America. He's just Steve now. Because he can't believe in some of the ideals that America believes in anymore. So Tony has the most to lose, which is why I believe that he loses the most. He is the one who ultimately makes the sacrifice. And I think, again, thematically, that plays into literally every single film that we've seen him in. That he is the one who, even though, Captain America, he's the soldier, and he's all about self-sacrifice, this, that, and the other. I think that Captain America, once he is around Tony, has always served more as a teacher for Tony than he has than Tony has served as a teacher for him, or that they've served as friends toward each other. He's always been Tony's teacher. Okay, now that Obadiah Stane is gone, now that Tony's father is gone, now that Tony's mother is gone, Captain America essentially was from that generation that would have raised Tony. And so even though obviously Cap is younger in looks than Tony is, he's always had this sort of parental kind of feel when talking to Tony. And how Tony should be, and how he should act, and how he should conduct himself, and the ways in which he should think, and how to be a hero. I think that because of that, Tony is the one who has to die. And so there you go. that is my theory. Oh my god, it took an hour. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm going to try to cut this video down a little bit, but I don't know if I can get it out in time. Anyways, as I said, I'm a writer. Please check out my books on Amazon. Extraordinary is already out. If you really like reading, especially if you like comic book type stuff, granted, it does not have, I'm not an illustrator, so it doesn't have any pictures to it. But if you like, if you like that sort of sci-fi type of stuff, really please check it out. Like the first 3 episodes, you can just even check out the first 3 episodes. Okay, and I try to move fast in there. But I really, really would love it if you at least check that out. People who are Amazon Prime members, I believe you can read the first 3 episodes for free. And again, they don't cost like maybe $3-4 at the most. So check my serial out. It has 10 episodes in the first season. So yeah, check it out. I hope that you join me on that journey. So I've been Michael Stevenson, and thank you for watching.